Hi, and welcome to this month's video where I answer some questions and comments, as well as making some of my own comments about some of the things I've been reading. So first of all, I can say from my own experience that sure, being misanthropic doesn't become affected by if I have a home or not. I was actually more misanthropic 14 years ago when I didn't have any apartment or a home. I was just traveling and sometimes staying somewhere nearby where I worked, or just visiting friends and recording music and things like that, or sleeping outside in different forests and parks and similar things like that. And I had a period of maybe around 2 years when I didn't have any real income. I was just living on my savings from my previous job. Which was pretty limiting, but it definitely didn't limit my misanthropy. Because just as black metal itself, to me it's not some mere subgenre or ideology or hobby. It's a way of life, and it's not a choice. It's something that will choose you. At least that's been my experience. It's completely fine if your experience is something different. I get plenty of questions if I have heard this or that song or this or that band, or if I will listen to X project. And I can just honestly simply say, well, it's never anything personal. It's just that my time and especially my energy is very limited, and I really don't have any interest, because usually it's one thing if I meet you in person, not like while selling merch after or before a concert or during a art exhibition, but if we meet at a party or at a bar or after a concert or exhibition, and I'm in a good mood and interested in experiencing something new, I may consider it. But mentioning a name of a project or band in a comment or sending me emails, that's something that I will just never look into. If I go out just a minute in this direction, I have the forest that tells me stories and sings me songs that you have never heard before. And to me that's much more interesting and rewarding, because that's something I have a connection to. It interests me and intrigues me. It's a source of my passion and a reason for me to keep breathing. So if your band is not one of those, I sincerely don't know why I should why should I? Usually if your project is interesting enough, I will already know about it. At least that used to be my old idea of it, but because it's so much easier to record music now than it was 10 or 15 years ago, I'm well aware that maybe you are behind my next favorite band. There's no real way to know. But once again, even if that may be the case, I'm busy with other things, and that's my priority. So let's leave it at that. Because I believe that we have plenty of time to get to know each other, and when the time is right, because time finds a way, that will be the time for me to hear whatever it is. And then it will mean something. So, my first tattoo that I have here, that I got 13 years ago, almost 14, in about 2 months from now, it will be 14. Something I got after completing the recordings of Sheila Rakbladsvalsen in Östersund, in the northern region of Sweden. It's about 4 hours or so east of Trondheim, to give you an approximation. And of course the circular symbol with the branches, it's a part of an old Forgotten Woods logotype that they had in their booklets. of course omitting the FW, because to me it's more important that I have a tribute to nature and my roots and adoration of and in black metal and Sweden and Norway than simply just the band, even though they have made some of the finest albums to come out of that country during those times. So that's what that tattoo is. I think you'll find it both in As the Wolves Gather and Curse of Mankind, if you're not aware of those wonderful albums. It won't take you more than some seconds to find them. So another older, frequently asked question that is a bit related to these things is why did I mutilate myself when I did shows? Well, usually I didn't actually. I've done so far over 100 concerts the past 2 decades, and I can count on one hand the amount of times that I have got myself connected to some kind of performance or concert. So I'm a bit surprised to get that answer, or get a request for that answer and get that question so much, because it's pretty damn irrelevant to everything that I've been doing the past 15 years. Because I've over and over in most interviews underlined that bloodletting is a aspect of my meditation rituals before concerts, and the ceremony, the live performance, is another part of the ritual, but the cutting is not part of that ceremony. And the times where I've done it has been in the beginning to get into a certain mood, but also simply out of boredom. Just to change my mood a little bit. Because the reason behind some of my actions are not always deep or profound or calculated, even though that's been my goal at least the past decade. But we all evolve and progress in life. In some cases, for example, during one of my live painting performances and concerts with Considered Suicide and Hypothermia in Mexico City, I just ran out of ink. It was that simple, so I decided that, well, blood is an option, so let's have some. Simple as that. Sorry about my neighbor. And that's my only source of frustration at this place, really. But I can't afford moving away from here, so it is what it is for now. But this corner will work for now. So, speaking of the past, I often get asked about my old project Sheila. And the difference between that and that era of hypothermia. And it's pretty simple, actually. As I have mentioned in some other interviews and videos, I lived and still live 900 kilometers south of where we recorded the different albums with hypothermia during the era that Nachtzeit did the drums. And it costs around 150 euros or 200 euros to go up there and back, and takes around 10 or 12 hours or so, while back then I was working and living in Jönköping, which is like 4 hours south of Stockholm and 2 hours east of Gothenburg, to give you an expectation of where it's located on the map. And my friend Alex from Svartnar lives there. of course it was free to go home to his place and record something when I had ideas that I didn't feel like waiting 1 or 2 years before I could record them. So back then it was merely a result of urges and necessity, and having some concepts that I didn't completely feel like they belonged with the whole concept and arc of hypothermia. So it was suitable to do something else with that material, and that's why that project was born and then ended when its purpose was completed and fulfilled. And the first idea was just to make 2 demos, but one of my contacts back then that had a label, Northern Sky, in the US, that released the first press of Pulver by Life Lever, he liked that project a lot and asked me if I would consider making a whole album. So I did. Which was Glory of Negativity. It's not something that I'm proud of. I could do so much better with the knowledge that I have built up over the years, but back then my knowledge was much more limited, and it was ideas that I wouldn't use for anything else back then, so it is what it is. It's a part of that era. Nothing more, nothing less. And if I would like to make something in that vein again, I'm more likely to release it under another name, or make a project with another musician to make something like that, rather than just revisiting something else. So the last question I have to answer for this video is about how I am able to, or what I think about enjoying things that are not considered normal. And I think for those of you who have watched some of my other videos or read some of my interviews, you'll already know this answer to most of its extent, but I don't mind sharing it for those of you who are new to this channel as well, and maybe there are some details of this that I've been forgetting about previously, or that doesn't hurt to be repeated. So as always, it's all about long-term experience and perception of things. Yeah. How objective you are able to be. Very few things are, by their own definition, good or bad. That's all very relative terms, depending on the situation and person involved in it, and how it affects that person. So I think it's pretty natural that, to me and many of you watching this, what someone else claims or feels to be dark or depressive or depressing music or sounds or atmosphere, it's of course pleasant and calming, relaxing, because it's something we know very well. Melancholy is not bad if you know how to embrace it and truly experience it. To let it take you where you need to go and not resist. Of course, that always has some limit. Sometimes you can't just do anything because there is an urge or need for it. You have to think about it a bit. But that's something that will evolve just as you. And today's world, I think we all know that everyone can be very different, and that can be applied to all matters and tastes. No matter if it's what sense that gets applied to what we put in our bodies in different ways. And what the experiences that we share. Because everyone's experience is different. And of course that can be a challenge to explain to someone that haven't reflected on something as simple and natural, like the actual fact that everyone is different and have a different perception of reality and what things that they enjoy to experience in their lives. And if you get stuck in a argument or discussion with a person like that, there isn't really much you can do about it except walk away, or if it's at work, just avoid that person to any extent possible that doesn't interfere with your duties. That can be applied to most aspects of life as well. Because even if you're a misanthrope or worship emptiness, and perceive time differently than the majority of the world, it doesn't change some of the more basic things in this world, which is the value that you can put on the time or energy that you have, or that those around you have. And in the end, that's all that matters, not what someone considers to be normal. Because to me, emptiness and melancholy is joy in one of its purest forms. That's who, what, and why I am what I am. And with that, I thank you all for listening and watching this time. As always, further questions and comments below are more than welcome, so we can continue this series and making more videos like this. So let me know some of your thoughts. Take care. See you next time.